Hey, what's up? We're here with Cliff Bleszinski of Epic Games. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Awesome, it's good to see you too. So we're here, this is the review event.
Yeah.
So all these people behind us are,
they're
as I did it earlier, they're reviewing your game.
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying. I don't have children, but I have a little bit of insight now into what it must feel like to be an expectant dad outside the room, and you're like, oh my god, just give me 10 fingers and 10 toes, that's all I want.
Well, I mean, do you find yourself kind of walking around the room watching people play and be like, oh, he's not so good at this game?
Well, there's parts where, you know, you'd expect the journalist to just breeze through that they may find a little trickier, or parts that you're expecting, you know, to go a certain way. But, you know, people are people, and people play through at their own pacing, and ultimately I'm feeling pretty darn good. I think people are really liking it. They're, you know, getting through the campaign. They're starting to play Horde in 5-player co-op, and they're playing Versus, and there's been hooting and hollering, and you can barely hear yourself think with all the yelling going on.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot livelier today. When people were playing campaign yesterday, it was very focused,
yeah, just,
like,
you know,
lots of headphones.
in the zone.
Like staring at the screen, and then someone dying going, fuck! Yeah. And then, you know, reloading, going,
and then I'm going over going, you know, you can play it on a easier difficulty, pussy.
You want Gears of War to appeal to even more people than it does already. Can you explain, like, what changes have you made for this difficulty to make it?
Well, just the mantra was that easy can't be too easy. And like when you play casually, you basically have to try to die. I mean, like, it's to the point where, like, you know, you're running up to a locust like, would you please kill me now? And that, if you watch a person who doesn't play a lot of games, who is really getting used to the two-stick gameplay, they can't figure out all the buttons, it really needs to be forgiving. And so continuing with that idea, what we did was we allow players in co-op, in the campaign, one player can play like on hardcore and another player can play on casual. You can play on different difficulty levels. Because I think co-op is such a great bridging of the gap for players of various difficulty levels. So, you know, if you know, the guy's playing the game and he's super hardcore and his girlfriend wants to just join in, or, you know, somebody who just doesn't play a lot of games, they can play at their own pace and they still feel like they can be successful and they can still have fun at the game. Because ultimately we want everybody playing it.
Cool. So how do you fit those together? I mean, it's co-op, it's the same world, you have one person playing on, you know, the ultra easy, one person playing on the ultra hard.
We very rarely adjust the enemy count. Once in a blue moon we might play with that a little bit depending on difficulty. The main way that we do that in regards to changing difficulty is by the player who's on casual does more damage and can take more damage, whereas the guy who's on hardcore or insane, he can't take a lot of damage before he dies, and he doesn't do quite as much damage with his weapons. So it's just a matter of changing those two variables.
So if I want to get the insane mode achievements, then I want to play on insane with someone who's playing on casual, and then I want to hang back and let them do all the dirty work.
You can do that if you want, but, you know, if you want to ruin your own fun, you can, you know, eject the DVD and snap it in two and, you know, pee on it too.
When it came to creating a sequel to Gears of War and coming up with that story, what was your starting point? What was the one thing you really wanted to nail in Gears of War 2?
We wanted it to be a more personal story. And, you know, we didn't want to get too much into it with Marcus, because Marcus doesn't say a lot. You know, he's kind of an anti-hero, and, you know, you can't really see Marcus, you know, showing up and going, I miss my wife, or anything like that. Whereas Dom is a bit more of an everyman. He's the voice of the player. He's sometimes the voice of reason. And then it really made sense to continue with that theme, whereas Dom had the tattoo in the first game, and Dom had made the comments about the fact that he's looking for his wife, to have that more personal story arc for him. Because in my opinion, any good sci-fi has monsters or aliens or you know, lasers or anything like that, but more importantly, it has personal stories, whereas, you know, you have a man looking for his wife or kids or anything like that, so it can really resonate with a broad audience.
It definitely seems like the story asks a lot more questions than it answers. It seems like you're really kind of setting up and building towards something. Is it something where you have an end to this story in mind already, or is it kind of as you go, it's like, let's tell this side of this huge epic conflict.
Yeah.
Let's fit this in here.
I mean, we as with any narrative that hopefully people find compelling, you want to answer some of the questions that they have, and also you want to ask a few more questions. And, you know, I feel like in Gears 2 we answer a lot of questions. You know, people's questions about the Locust hierarchy, what's really going on in the underground, you know, what's up with Dom and his situation, what's up with Carmine, you know, who are these new characters, all those kinds of things. But yeah, you have to ask a few questions in order to kind of, you know, keep people curious and keep them speculating, if in the event you get around to doing a future installment. So it remains to be seen where everything's going to go. I mean, we always have ideas about where, you know, a future title could go, or where the universe might be. We have, you know, the story Bible for the universe that's like this thick now, and you're not a cool IP unless you have a story Bible that's this thick. You know, it has to weigh 5 pounds, and you have to be able to hold the door open with it.
We have to be able to, like, FedEx that to whoever's going to be doing the movie and all that stuff,
yeah, well,
too, right?
we put it in a Brinks truck, and we just ship it all the way across the country. We mow down entire forests for it. That's pretty much how it is.
Let's talk about weapons a little bit. You added a flamethrower to the game. You added, gosh, what else? There's a flamethrower, new grenade type, the heavy weapons.
Yeah, you get the mulcher, and you're like, you know, churning the butter, doing the little monkey thing with the box right there. Yeah.
So when you're building these maps and deciding where to place all these weapons, I noticed that the Hammer of Dawn doesn't seem to pop up as often as it did. That was something in Gears 1. There was always find a Hammer of Dawn, find some clear skies, use it to clear out some really heavy stuff.
Find Hammer of Dawn, win game, repeat. Yeah. Step 3, step 4, profit, right?
Yeah.
Just in regards to weapon layouts, we wanted to give a little bit more breathing room for a lot of the new weapons. So what we do in multiplayer is we actually cycle through a few of the weapons. So if the first round you find a sniper rifle, the second round it will swap to the torque bow, and then the third round it'll go back to the sniper, and it kind of alternates. Same thing with the grenade types, same thing with the pistol types, and we do that also with the heavy. So if you play, for example, Avalanche, and you get the Mulcher, next round it'll turn into the Mortar, and then back and forth.
Right.
So it's generally kind of like a class-based weapon cycling, because the Gears maps generally only have 3, maybe 4 weapons that you can pick up in them. It's not like, an Unreal Tournament map where all 10 weapons are located throughout the map.
Right.
And we wanted to give a lot of the weapons very equal stage time. But I mean, the Hammer of Dawn is definitely in there. It's just we had to give a little more elbow room for the new weapons for players to play with them and have fun.
Cool. Definitely, I noticed the weapon cycling when we were playing Horde mode, and Horde mode is crazy. 50 rounds of action. Is that random every time, or do you know, if someone's playing on casual with 5 players and it's wave 47, it's going to be these types of enemies?
There's a bit of randomness in there, but players can start generally figuring out the type of enemy that will come out within the batches of 10 waves.
Mm-hmm.
So, but every 10 waves, of course, the Horde gets more accurate, they get tougher,
right.
And the Horde grows stronger.
Yes.
And the fun thing about that is if you take Horde with the 50 waves versus the 15 maps that we have, and you kind of do that matrix of playing each one, each map turns out to be completely unique and different. There's different spots the team's going to want to try and camp out and defend. There's different weapons that appear and different strategies players will have, and there's really hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of gameplay to be had there.
So, you have become something, household name probably isn't the right term for it, but in terms of people that play games, you've become a very public face for game developers. And that's been, I just wonder how that's been for you, because it seems like you're in this situation now where every time you do an interview, you say something that probably just comes off in passing, something you throw out there that ends up being the headline of the interview and just being blown way out of context, huge pull quote, all that stuff. Do you find yourself over time, as this happens more and more, it's I need to button it up?
You just you have to be careful, you have to pick your battles, you have to filter what you say. Mm-hmm. But I'm having fun.
Until someone tells you to shut up, you're gonna.
No, that's Mark Rain's job. Yeah. Whenever I do an interview, this is great, because what happens is this pull quote will pop up, and I'll get a phone call from Mark. He's like, "Why the f are you saying this about that?" I'm like, "Sorry, man, it just came out, And he's like, "Don't be talking about that." I'm like, "All right, man. All right, I'll watch it next time."
It's just a controller.
Yeah, no, just those triggers are so mushy. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I have my own personal preferences, but the bottom line is if I didn't say something controversial every once in a while, everyone would just assume Microsoft's hands up my ass and I'm being used as a little puppet. And I'm my own person, I have my own opinions, I'm a game designer, and sometimes I'm going to say things people may agree with or they may not, as long as, maybe it facilitates some interesting discussions. Cool.
So as a game designer, you're kind of on this track where you're now making these gigantic blockbuster games. Do you ever kind of miss the old days of the Jazz Jackrabbits and that kind of stuff?
I don't. I think there's this weird romantic element there about 2 guys in the garage drinking Mountain Dew and never sleeping and eating sour cream and onion potato chips. Man, it's just no, screw that. I want to work on games that are AAA. I want tons of awesome people working on them. I want to, have the game go big. I want millions of people playing it. I just want to go big or go home. That would be hell for me if I ever had to go back to that. If I had to go back to oh, look at me, I'm making a game for my phone. No, I'd die.
All right, well, thank you for your time. Gears of War is out the 7th?
November 7th.
So yeah,
worldwide,
out
exclusively on
by the
Xbox.
Time you see this, that's how do you feel now? It's is it completely done, or is it I
think I'm about to vomit.
Yeah.
I have an ulcer. I'm bleeding. Oh. I'm excited, man. I just everybody in the team has just been working their butt off for 2 years to make this game a possibility, and for it to just start off as just this kind of little glimmer in everybody's eye, and to really form it and mold it, and then have it turn out to be something that is just really special and fun. It's one of the most gratifying things you could do.
Cool. One more question for you.
Okay.
Before we go here. Now, how do you feel about the power of the Xbox 360, how much it has left, and the power of Unreal Engine 3? Do you feel like you could make another game and make the kind of Gears 1 to Gears 2 improvements, or are you kind of...
It remains to be seen what we do in the future. I have a feeling that our programmers have a lot more tricks up their sleeve, and there's a lot more magic to be had there. And I like to draw the comparison all the way to like the SNES. When like the first generation SNES games were like, wow, this looks way better than my Nintendo.
Right.
And then the next generation, like, what is this, Mode 7? And then all of a sudden, once you get like a few more years in the console's life cycle, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe they rendered those characters using Mode 7 when they turned it into polygons and added in that chip and like all that crazy stuff that they were doing. So, any future games we do in the console, I have a feeling we could squeeze a fair amount of tricks out of it.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Cool.
And congratulations.
Thank you. Let me tell you about my mother.
Yeah, tell me about your mother.
Tell me
about Los Angeles.
I had a nice childhood. I don't like LA.
Yeah, I don't really
If I had a choice to live in New York or LA, I'd live in New York in a nanosecond.
Wow, I don't know. That'd be a coin flip for me.
Yeah, the winters are bad, but New York wears its, assholishness on its sleeve, whereas LA acts like it's your friend.
But it's even a bigger asshole most of the time. Right?
And there's a lot of traffic.